Hey, how's it going? In the world of ARs, one of the most popular configurations for an SBR, short-barreled rifle, is the Mark 18 CQBR, Close Quarters Battle Receiver. It's not surprising. The use within Special Forces teams guarantees that the weapon will be seen as badass and tactical. Even though most of the military configurations of this rifle were severely overgassed, which led to higher recoil and a higher frequency of parts breaking, it's still loved by most of the Special Forces dudes who were issued it, often preferring to run the CQBR upper instead of their M4 uppers. The Mark 18 has a 10.3 inch barrel, whereas the M4 has a 14.5 inch barrel, a pretty significant difference in barrel length. This length was chosen according to what would be the shortest possible length that still clears the bayonet lug when used with a front sight post gas block. Modern Tactical Shooting has a great video detailing the history of the Mark 18 and his use of it when he was in Special Forces. Check it out if you're interested. Even though a 10.3 inch barrel with carbine gas has some issues and is mostly outclassed by an 11.5 barrel, I wanted to build out a 10.3 and see how well I could get it to run suppressed. Adding a suppressor adds back pressure to the system and will cause a badly overgassed gun to get even worse. The first thing I looked at was the gas port size on the barrel. Many Mark 18s had huge gas ports, .082 and larger, to ensure reliability with such short dwell time. For those unaware, dwell time is the distance between the gas port and the muzzle. Longer dwell time means more time for gas to work the system. With the dwell time as short as the one in the 10.3 with carbine gas, the gas port had to be opened up to ensure enough gas made it into the system. The problem you often run into when running suppressed is that without an adjustable gas block, any amount of gas is going to be a compromise. Do you want the gun to be lighter gas for lighter recoil? Then you may run into reliability issues. Do you want more gas? Then you'll have harsher recoil and increased parts wear. Even if you find a healthy middle ground, you might run into issues. Full power 5.56 suppressed will likely be overgassed, and steel 223 unsuppressed will likely be undergassed. I own a suppressor, so I never want to shoot unsuppressed if I can help it, so I'm not concerned with the reliability of the system unsuppressed. So, I went with a crane spec gas port barrel. That is a gas port with a size of .070. This gas port size will run everything unsuppressed, but sometimes has failures to lock back on empty with weaker 223 ammunition. After shooting a few hundred rounds through this configuration, I felt that I could do better, as this setup was still ejecting full power 5.56 cases around the 2 o'clock position when suppressed, even with the crane spec gas port size. I considered a few options, one of them being an adjustable gas block. I generally don't like adjustable gas blocks for heavy use on ARs, as most of them tend to either become non-adjustable or straight up broken after high round counts. One of my cousins, shout out Nick, had a screw adjustable gas block and the screw noped out of the block after a low round count. Not ideal. The rifle speed gas block looks fantastic and looks like a perfect fit for this build, but holy shit, it's $200. I might get one at some point, as the adjustment knob extending out to where you don't need a hex wrench to adjust the gas is a really cool feature, but yeah, that's quite a lot of money for a gas block. I've also used the Wojtek Weaponry click adjustable gas block and had good luck with it, but for this build I wanted to avoid adding another potential failure point to the system. Next, I looked at the Black River Tactical Easy Tune gas tube. Give them your system setup and they'll pick out a gas tube with a port size appropriate for your system. This seems like a good option, but the issue is it's $65 for a gas tube, a part that you can usually get for between $10 and $20. There's also the issue that with erosion, eventually the specialized gas tube is just going to become a normal gas tube. That's an eventuality with all gas ports, but for the price I really couldn't justify this product, at least not for me. Finally, I found the YHM suppressor-only gas block. This is a normal gas block, but the gas port is drilled a lot smaller, letting 55% less gas into the system than a normal gas block. This part is only $16, similar price to a normal gas block. Now you aren't getting the precise gas port size that you're getting with the BRT Easy Tune, but you could always open up the gas port yourself if you feel that you need more gas. At first, even suppressed, this gas block in combination with the .070 gas port size in the barrel would only run full power 5.56.
We did not get ejection? Okay, so the 223 did not run. How about some actual Lake City 5.56, 55 grain? That didn't eject either. Normal basic bitch 223 again. Let's see if it runs. Hey! Now that was pretty lethargic, but it did eject, and we have a malfunction. Let's go ahead and try another shot. We're getting consistent failures to feed. We have a little bit stronger ejection. And cycling. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we have a winner.
Brass 223 wouldn't even cycle. After a few dozen rounds, the finish on the inside of the gas block wore away, and I was getting just barely enough gas to cycle Brass 223 suppressed. Keep in mind that my suppressor is a Dead Air Sandman K, which is a pretty low back pressure can to begin with, so if you were using a higher back pressure can, you likely would not have had any issues cycling Brass 223. The trade-off, of course, with the suppressor-only gas block is the gun will not even attempt to cycle unsuppressed. I never intend to shoot this gun unsuppressed anyway, so I don't care. This is awesome. The recoil impulse of this gun with full power 5.56 is now pretty close to shooting subsonic 300 blackout if you're familiar with that. It's incredibly gentle and I can easily keep double taps on target even at distance. That being said, it's still loud as fuck, of course. With short barrels like a 10.3, you experience more gas port erosion than on longer barrels, so I suspect after 1,000 or so rounds, the recoil will get closer to normal, but for the time being, this SBR is stupid gentle to shoot. Now, when comparing different systems, I always try to quantify it, at least a little bit, in the form of my carbine course of fire. Or a different one, I have several. Of course, there are plenty of variables that make using drills a not entirely accurate metric. I could shoot the same course of fire with the same gun on the same day using the same ammo and get significantly different scores. That being said, I still like being able to quantify my proficiency with different weapons and configurations, so I'll keep doing it. As with here. My score with an earlier configuration of this SBR back when it was a braced pistol was 11.5. Now there are a few things to note here. This is before I added a foregrip to the gun, which I prefer due to being able to pull it into your shoulder more tightly for better recoil control. The 0 on the dot I had on it at the time was also kind of shitty, so keep in mind that these variables excluded, the score may have been higher. Now on the run where I used the suppressor-only gas block, there was the issue that I literally couldn't see the right target through weeds, so that definitely hurt the score a little bit. That being said, my score went from 11.5 without the suppressor-only gas block and 12.2 with. Now that's not a significant score increase, but it would be higher, again, had I been able to see the right target. Besides lower recoil and parts wear, one big benefit of a tuned host is lower gas to the face in a semi-auto. Gas to the face is particularly prevalent when running ARs suppressed due to the gas vents inside the bolt carrier. Short-term, gas to the face causes discomfort and can make you flinch, causing you to lose your sight picture and miss shots. Long-term, gas to the face can cause lead poisoning and give you cancer. Lead and other carcinogenic shit in the primer and powder of modern ammunition isn't great for you to be breathing in and can cause health issues even if you shoot outdoors. It's one of the many reasons I always recommend that you at least wash your hands after shooting. Even better is using lead wipes. It'll save you money on medical treatment down the road. Another point to consider when running a 10.3 is what muzzle device to go with. Without a suppressor mounted, flash hiders are almost always my go-to. I really dislike the concussion and flash muzzle brakes produce, particularly on short-barreled rifles, so obviously I went with a flash hider, right? No. I went with a muzzle brake on this upper for one very specific reason. Sacrificial baffles. When you use a quick detach suppressor on a muzzle brake adapter, you actually increase the lifespan of your suppressor's blast baffle, particularly on a short-barreled 5.56. The ports on the muzzle brake take a lot of the abuse your blast baffle would take if you were running a flash hider or just an adapter with no muzzle device underneath at all. That being said, the blast baffle is, or at least should be, the strongest part of the suppressor due to it taking the most abuse. That being said, I would still like to limit the frequency of suppressor repairs if at all possible. Since I never intend to shoot this upper unsuppressed, a muzzle brake was the obvious choice. You can see after about 1,050 rounds of both 5.45x39 and 5.56 suppressed, my brake has gotten some pretty good erosion. This is abuse that I saved my suppressor from taking. It's not one-to-one since the Sandman has stellite baffles, which is an incredibly tough material, and the brake is made from 4140 nitrided steel. Not as tough. Still, this goes to show why on a suppressor-only rifle, I really like muzzle brakes. Only other thing I have to say, really, is a quick and dirty overview of the rest of this build. Using the 10.3 on an Aero M4E1 lower that I SBR'd, and cut to accept a PDQ lever. I'll do a video on that product at some point. I didn't use the tax-exempt form, because fuck the ATF, so I still had to get the lower engraved and pay the tax stamp. Had the engraving done by Tar Heel State Firearms, and they did a good job. I'll do a full video of this build later, when I get it into its final configuration. But of course, it doesn't matter what gas block or rifle you have if you suck and can't shoot it well. Get out there and train, damn it. Run drills, touch grass, socialize, reach out to friends, take your meds, that's a big one, and have fun. Take care.